Welcome to Monkey Chatter. Before we get started, we have to say that while we think we are really smart, we definitely are not doctors, and you should not be taking our advice as medical advice. Everything we say on this show is based on personal experiences, and any guests we have on are not on to help diagnose or treat or cure any disease. Please reach out to your doctor if you have specific medical questions. And now that we're done with kind of the legalese of the show, we want to get on with the fun stuff. So carry on. Let's get down to Monkey Chatter. Hi, and welcome to Monkey Chatter. I'm Lara, and I'm here with Amy and Michelle. We're in a silly mood, so hopefully we'll get some laughs going. But today's topic is courses and training, workshops. We just thought it would be fun to kind of go through and talk about some of the things that we've done ourselves. Maybe even, kind of chat about what we liked and what we didn't over the years, whether it was for personal growth or in some cases we had to do it for work or what have you. But a little critique and maybe talk about some of our favorites. And I don't know, maybe it'll inspire somebody to go out and do an online course or do a little self-help or something. So I don't know why we chose this topic, to be honest, but it seems fun.
Yeah.
I don't know. In our last episode, we actually talked about retreats. So it kind of goes hand in hand. When you go on a retreat, you do some of that. You do a little reflection, you do a little deep work. Not the kind of deep work we talked about prior.
Not the book that you didn't
reading an
read.
entire book, blocking out time. So I guess I'll kind of, like, from a really far away perspective, my first ever actual training was probably way back when I first started in sales, and it was advertising sales, and I got sent away. No, I got sent to California from Kentucky to do this training, and it was sales training. And it was in an office in LA where the owner of the company lived. And he had an office there where he had several seasoned salespeople. So anybody new would go there and train with the seasoned crew. I mean, it was fun. I actually still know people from that realm of my life that I still talk to occasionally. But it was very intense because he had a very specific idea about how you should do sales. And we talked about this too in the past, where it was making all the calls and having this little system. But I will say a lot of the training stuck with me. So I do feel like when you take a very intense course or workshop or training like that, you will find something that you can take away, you can take home with you. And so I think even though I didn't love a lot of that, those times I actually hated it. I feel like even to this day, there's things I can say I learned and took away and made my own later on. And, I had a pretty good career in sales for most of my life. So until recently, and now still I'm selling because I have to sell my own business. So yeah, I guess let's start with, maybe come back to the present moment, and Amy or Michelle, if you guys want to jump in and tell us about some recent training or course or workshop that you guys engaged in. Don't everybody go first.
Well, we didn't decide who was going. Michelle, do you want to go?
I can go. I just finished up. Martha Beck started. I've talked about her before. She's a pretty well-known life coach out in the world, and I feel like she started this around COVID, but I could be wrong, so don't quote me on that. But she started doing these 6-week online courses, mostly around anxiety and how to calm yourself and that kind of work. And so I guess she's done, God, have I really done 3 of those? 3 or 4 of those? But I really like them. They're great. And she sets it up so uh work in between, right? So you go in and, you've got worksheets and all of that. And then there's a quote unquote online community, and you can send in questions for Martha to answer on the live calls, because she also does some live calls where she gets on and takes some Q&A. So I really like the format of those. I've really learned a lot, and picked up a lot of like tools and tips for, working with clients um and that kind of thing. So as far as like the most recent thing, that's probably the most, like, that just wrapped up. In fact, it's still, they keep the platform and the information available for a few months, or I guess a couple months after it wraps. And the community still can, interact, and then they close it all down and you don't have access. But it's really kind of nice because the format of it gives you a little combination of like, you know, I like a structured self work in between. I think one of the challenges often with those things is you get on and listen to the live, whatever the person does the teaching, and then that's it. And I don't know. I retain a lot more if there's something to do in between. So I've liked that. That's really good. And Lara, you got me thinking about all the sales trainings I've been through in my like really long career, and how much most of them truly have not been awesome. Um,
Yeah, I agree. I've since
right?
that
Yeah.
Like,
first one even, that was the most immersive one I've ever done, and it probably was the better one because of that, but I can think of some others that were just awful,
right?
painful.
You're like, who thought this was a good idea? That being said, there was the, I had sort of a brief, quick um job change that didn't last very long, and it was a sales position, and it was on the more on the pharmaceutical vet side. And um I had to go through some training for that, and I remember thinking that that was particularly good and like way better than anything else I had done. um And if you ask me now, like, what was better about it, I really couldn't tell you. I just remember doing it and thinking, "Wow, this was different than what I've been through." So I
Yeah.
kind of agree with you. Like, I guess everybody just picks up things along the way that, they're like, "Oh, that kind of sticks with me," or "That works," or but I think I'm addicted. I have to admit, I am really addicted to like the whole workshop course training. Like, if I'm not like, I just enrolled in something else that I just started, and I do feel like it's a problem. Like, I have to, really limit myself. Like, do not sign up for more than like one thing a quarter, right? Like, you cannot, really get any value out of it. But yeah, I definitely am one of those folks, even back in the day, like before we did all this stuff online, I would take like some sort of course, because our local community college would always have like, I'm like, oh well, that's interesting. I remember taking a technical writing course just because I was like, oh, that seems interesting. So just I take these random courses that, yeah, I'm thinking, what am I doing? Who wants to spend their Tuesday and Thursday nights in a like classroom? Like, what is wrong with you? But it is something I just really, I don't know, I like learning things.
Well,
Yeah,
you are the curious
Yeah, the
monkey.
curious.
I am super curious, and I am curious about really weird, bizarro stuff that sometimes I get into the class and I'm like, "What was I thinking? This is horrible." And now I've paid money money to and time that
The time.
I don't,
Yeah.
nobody has any extra time. So here I'm giving up my time and my money to do something that I'm like,
Well,
"Oh."
and that's a good point. Is like, so I think about like I haven't done anything for a while, and I've been craving one. So this is hopefully this might spur me to go ahead and pull the trigger on a couple of different courses I've been thinking about. And now, of course, ever since the Zoom got big, you can really do a lot more online. And I feel like the most recent one I did was probably I did a yoga nidra certification in 2020 at the end of the year online. And it was after I had done my yoga teacher training, which was a huge commitment. That was like a year-long course, which I know there's bigger ones than that even, but it was well worth it. Like, and it was expensive, but it's so worth it, and I loved it. But to keep my Yoga Alliance certificate or registration, I have to have certain amounts of continuing education every 3 years. And so I'm now at the point where I need to get some more. And because the Yoga Nidra counted for some, and then I also did a trauma-informed teaching certificate with Cindy Reed, who's a local yoga teacher here, but she's phenomenal. She's also a licensed clinical social worker and a counselor and mental health professional, and just a beautiful soul in general. But I really do think like there's a point where, I don't know, like certain types of personalities just have this interest in keep shoving information in there in your brain. And yeah, like I feel like not everybody's doing that. Not everybody's out there doing. Some people you have to sometimes. Like some people have to have CEs, and there's a reason for that. Doctors and I think teachers and other people. But so Amy, what about you? Like, because you have your nutrition and your fitness coaching like that. Do you have to have CEs to keep that up?
Yeah. And I was actually because I'm a nerd, I made a list of some of the.
Is it
I don't have them in a spreadsheet.
Dang it!
Well, I bet you do. No.
Lie. I bet. Show us. We want to see. We don't believe you.
It's just a handwritten list. I had to think
but
of
it will be in a spreadsheet
stuff
by 10 p.m. tonight, everyone.
I know, because I'm like, man, I've forgotten a lot of the things that I've taken. So maybe I should spread. And that is the whole reason that I have spreadsheets for things, because
makes sense.
My memory sucks.
I'm sure there's a course for that.
I'm sure. I haven't taken that yet. But yeah, I love to take stuff too. I am probably not taking any sort of writing course ever in my entire life unless I'm forced to. And yeah, I agree on some of the sales training. Those are just, some of those have been hours of my life that I will never get back. But I like a lot of my nutrition and like some of the fitness stuff and whatever. And I was thinking, like, when I was making the list, like, it really does make a huge difference who the person is that is teaching it. Like, so one of the best courses that I ever took, it was only a 1-day course, but it was an aerobic capacity course with Chris Hinshaw, who is just an awesome coach. And and you guys will obviously relate to this, and to anybody that we work with that knows, knew Dr. Vandergrift. He's like kind of the Dr. Vandergrift of the human coaching aerobic capacity stuff. Like, he just has a way of saying things and explaining things that like takes super techie science, physiology and all that stuff, and just making it normal, common people, and like makes it really cool. It was super interactive. It was in person, it wasn't online, but like very interactive. And of course all the people that were there were like cool, and they're all into that stuff too. So yeah, that was probably, and that's been a couple years. That's probably been, I don't know, 2 or 3 years ago now, maybe, that I took it. But yeah, that was probably one of my favorite courses. I wish it would have been much longer.
And you said that was in person, Aim?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was at a local CrossFit gym. He does a bunch of stuff across the country and stuff. So,
well, yeah. And I actually feel like I'm craving in person too right now for some reason.
Yep.
And I've been keeping my eyes open for some continuing education credit classes for the yoga. And I don't even mind driving a bit and just taking a couple of days off, but like a 3 or 4 day in-person course, because I just feel like it's so immersive, and you feel kind of transported, and you always come back so renewed and so like refreshed and ready to kind of use what you learned, whether it's in your own life or like if you're teaching. And that's the thing I miss about not taking classes lately. Because there's been some courses like when I yoga teacher training was by far, the biggest impact on my life, which I was much very late in my life, but made a huge impact. But as far as like a big other favorite, there was a course I took. It was basically business development, but it was called the Soulful Business Accelerator. And it was with a woman named Bethany Bubenzer, who is a business coach, but she is also into yoga and lots of like metaphysical stuff. So there's the woo woo, and then there's the like super savvy. I'm going to have to make our thing explicit here and say like she's truly a boss bitch. Beep. But so shout out to Bethany too, because she's amazing. But like I really credit that course for keeping me on track. It was online and it was with a very small group of other women entrepreneurs. But because it was so interactive and so focused, I feel like it helped us all stay on track. And I still to this day kind of credit that course with me being able to get everything done and open the business when I did. So do you guys have a favorite, like deep, like this one was so impactful?
I definitely, when I did my Equus coach training, that was
I
like
remember when you were doing that.
Yeah, that was like a 2-year commitment. And there were multiple in-person, like 4-day things, and they were where were we? California. So, and then the practicum, like you had to go and actually do the work, and you got sort of, I don't know, judged is the wrong word, but you had to show that you could do what you were doing. And that was at a gorgeous ranch in Arizona. So,
Wow.
but that training really changed how I thought about horses in general, and like being a horse person all these years, and you know being a rider and competing, and you know using them as a facilitator for coaching just really was mind bendy for me. Like I really had to change how I thought about all of it. Like it was such a transformational experience to go through that training. And it's probably the first thing I ever did, because I've always sort of when you're in sales, right? You come at everything from this idea of, how do I monetize that? Right. So I'm going to do this training. I'm going to, and then I'm going to be this Equus coach. And so it's one of the first things I ever did without attachment to the outcome, for lack of a better phrase. I was like, I am doing this, and it was expensive, and it was hugely time consuming. And I really, there were points where I was like, this is just nuts. I can't believe you're doing this. And you have no plan for like how you're going to make money with this. But it was one of my coach at the time was a great woman named Nancy Duncan, who has since passed away. But she really helped me work through that and I was like, she's like, it's okay to do things just because you want to do them, right? Like that's okay. You don't have to turn this into a business. You don't have to justify the expense. You want to do this, so just do it and enjoy doing it, and whatever comes out of it comes out of it. And that was just such a foreign concept to me. I was like, are you
I
kidding me?
think that is profound though, because I mean, really that should be the whole point in a way of doing any kind of training or
Yeah. I guess I
certification
just
or
have,
course.
I grew up in a family culture, whatever, where like, it's okay to, spend $100 or, a couple $100 for just to do something that you just kind of want to do. But when you get into like 2 years and thousands of dollars, like
Yeah.
it seems like why are you doing that? Like, I could hear my, the folks in my head going, what are you doing? Like, why are you doing that? Put that money in the bank. Like, what is wrong with you? So it was really just doing it in and and it was remarkable, and the coaches that did the training and the whole thing was really really a great experience, and I don't regret, it's not one of those things where afterwards I was like, shh,
Sugar honey iced tea.
sugar honey
Yeah.
ice.
It's already explicit at that
It's
Yeah,
point.
already explicit. It's just like, oh
because there
shit.
are times when afterwards you're just like, "Oh god, that really wasn't worth it." No, this truly I was glad that I did it. I feel the same way
Yeah.
about my CTI training too. Yeah.
So that's how I was. Michelle knows that I took this. I did it's like an 18-month canine
Mm.
conditioning course,
Oh.
and I had no plans of turning that into like a job or like to monetize it or anything. Like I honestly just wanted to do it to like try to keep our one dog, and now 2 dogs, healthy, because we were doing the Candy Cross stuff where we run, we do runs and stuff together. And I really, and that like was fascinating. I remember, well, I actually interviewed Billy. Shout out to Billy who makes the podcast again. I had actually like interviewed him because we had to, interview people who had been in the or like in the industry or did like, you know, professional type stuff with dogs or whatever. And yeah, that was like fascinating. I felt like every module, so we did like, there were, modules that you went through, and then every other week we did a live call as like a little cohort or whatever. um but it was fascinating to me, because I didn't really know much about
Mm.
dogs. Like I love dogs, but I didn't know all the, doing all the gait analysis and like
Oh wow.
all that, all the
Mm.
physiology and all
Is
the
that the
different exercises and stuff.
weirdest course you would think you've ever taken? Or like most unusual, I should say, not weird.
Mm.
Like,
Mm.
yeah,
And that
interesting.
seems pretty unusual. I never even knew they had a course about like training your dog to go running with you.
Yeah, I mean,
Like,
and it's all
that's
kinds of like, it's not just running, but it is like, it's almost like, and I'm gonna like really dumb this down, but it's like personal training for dogs. So like you learn how to do like flexibility exercises, balance exercises, strengthening exercises, cardio exercises, and like put together a true conditioning plan for your, like a,
Mm.
5-day a week plan, whatever, that like
wow.
literally we have a template that like everything goes into, and you literally write a training plan for your dog based on, what you want to do. Like, do you want to run? Do you want to do agility stuff? Do you want to do, and just like, do you want to do dock diving? Like, and although like, and the like the power, and I mean, just like in humans, there's like all the
Yeah.
cardio, the, power, agility, strength.
That's pretty wild, like
Yeah.
really. I mean,
Yeah.
I used to
It's kind
think
of cool.
because all three of us have this, but like when I used to work in the horse industry and we got training on horse nutrition,
Mhm.
equine nutrition, and it was very in depth. Like we got a lot of
Like
training.
days. Yeah.
And even, even I've always thought that was a bit unusual. Like not many people know that. Like most horse owners don't know what they taught us. And anyways, I always thought that was kind of unusual, but that one's a new one I have.
Yeah. It's
That's a
cool.
cool one.
Yeah. I'm trying to think. Hmm. Most unusual. I don't know.
That's pretty
Yep.
unusual, I think. I bet
I
there's
think
not
so
that many
too.
people.
Yeah.
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 What
Yeah,
what
because
about
most of my other ones have been nutrition or
yeah.
fitness, some
Mhm.
sort of something related. Yeah.
So I do have another unusual one. Oh, and see, I didn't write this down. See, I
That's why you
almost
need a
forgot it.
spreadsheet. See?
I actually took, this is so funny. I just remember this. I took, and it was online. I took a Halo Therapist certification course from the Salt Therapy Association. Before it was actually, it was before I opened. It was during the process of like getting things ready and, finding a place to rent and like all that. And the Salt Therapy Association was offering this course to learn all about salt therapy and all of its benefits and how it worked. And it was like medical and science. And and then you had little tests you had to take at the end of every like chapter thing before you, it was pretty in depth. And then they actually sent me a certificate, which is not displayed prominently at the Salt Cave, but it should be. It should be. But yeah, that's a weird one. Pretty sure most people don't have that, or not many, unless they own a Salt Cave or work at one,
which is not many.
No. So yeah, I am a certified Halo therapist.
Wow.
Yeah.
A Halo therapist. That sounds angel-y.
I know.
The word halo. Well, salt is angelic, apparently. No, it's actually the Greek root word for salt. Halo.
Halo.
Didn't know that.
Really?
Look at us learning things.
There you go. See, I learned something out of that course, didn't I?
So good.
So this is something I was going to throw out there too. And I love this about the fact that you don't have to always spend money. You kind of,
there's tons of free stuff.
Yes, there's so many free things. And like, there's a lot of wellness apps out there. Sometimes it's like a yearly fee if you want to join and have access to all their courses. Like there's one I can think of called Commune, that I was a member of for a few years. Commune was good because I know it sounds,
I know.
Like a bad name.
I don't want to be a part of that.
Hi, welcome to the cult. No, it's not. It wasn't like that, but it was called Commune, and
I didn't think that through.
And it was good. Like they would have like courses, like 5-day courses, 10-day courses, like whatever and then they have little workshops that you could do at your leisure. So you could go on and sign up and do it. So that was one. Oh, I know one I did that I didn't finish, unfortunately, but
kind of like deep work.
It was kind of like deep work.
Yeah, really
it was a busy time, and I
work.
was like giving too much. I was putting way too much stuff on my plate, but I think it was through Cornell, and it was an online course, and it was called The Science of Happiness. And it was super interesting. Did you take it?
Yeah. I feel like
I didn't finish it all. I took a lot of it, but I didn't completely finish it. But it was so fascinating. Yeah, so that was a good one. And then Insight Timer, my all-time favorite meditation app. They have all kinds of classes and courses. Like right now I'm listening to one that is a 10-day yoga nidra course. And every day Amy's giggling. I see her in the video. Every day
I'm just laughing because I have my door shut. I'm sorry. I heard our dogs running around, and I just looked over and they're like peeking in my office door.
Like, what, are we gonna get in trouble,
yet?
Mom?
Come on, stop.
They've already eaten. Don't worry, they're not starving.
Oh yeah.
Okay, sorry. It was just really funny because I heard the door squeak, and then I looked over and both of their little noses are like, hi.
I know. I have mine is glued to my side when I'm doing the podcast. She's usually laying right next to me, just watching and waiting for dinner time. So,
all right, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. It was just funny.
So, anyways, like that one's like a 10-day course, and they're short. You listen to them, and they're breaking down like yoga nidra practice, and they're talking about all the different methods and what people like and what they might not, and different formulas, and it's been really fascinating. So, yeah, like there really is no end. I just need to find one right now. My goal is to find one that gives continuing education credits. And once I do that, then I'll have a new one. So yeah. So what's on the horizon? Yeah. Like, do you guys have anything in mind, or are you looking for something new?
I got to finish up a couple of the ones that I'm doing right now.
What are you doing right now? Tell us about it.
So I'm doing my USCA run coach certification.
Ooh.
That actually, I just spent multiple hours at the library yesterday studying and yeah, I gotta take that exam soon. And
That's cool.
then
How
I'm
long of a
doing
course is it?
so it's a self-paced sort of thing, but you have
Oh.
you can do it within a year. Yeah, like you have to like do it and whatever within a year.
Mhm.
And then I'm also doing so I did my nutrition, my level 1 and 2 through Precision Nutrition. And they have a course that is sleep, stress, and recovery.
Mhm.
Mm.
And yeah, I gotta get that finished too. So I've promised myself like I've seen a bunch of like stuff out there. I actually just saw one on like menopause stuff and a bunch of like fitness stuff for like that, and they had like a free 5-day course, and then like just to kind of give you a taste of it, and then you could like sign up for the full-fledged thing. So I did the kind of the quick little thing. I was like, no, you cannot sign up for
For
anything else
anymore.
until you finish. Yeah, like
Yeah.
you've got to stop. um so yeah, once I'm through those, then I don't know, we'll see.
Yeah,
This is
that
interesting.
is a
I mean,
challenge, right? Because there's so
yeah, because you wanna
much good.
juggle.
Yeah.
And then you get in and you're like, "Oh," like, I definitely have had a few where I've, just not finished them, and I feel terrible because, I'm like, "Oh, why didn't you finish that?" Yeah, that, thinking of courses, that menopause and metabolism course I took, no, God, I guess that was earlier this year. Earlier this year, there was, um, and shout out to Dr. Stacy Bean is the one who does that program. She's yeah, it was really good. My challenge often is I can make time for the actual like live sessions, and then but I don't calculate in like the time to actually do the in between or integrate what I'm like. That course specifically gave so much information. It was like a fire hose, and I was not prepared. Like, it was really good. And if I had known a fraction of what she taught in that course 20 years ago when I turned 40, um, that would have been super helpful. so, so just FYI, there's lots of really cool new stuff around how to manage menopause, and some of those courses I think are excellent. Um, and Stacy's for sure was really involved and really took um, into account, everything. And it's just so much. There's just so much, and it was like a fire hose. And I think that can be a challenge, like you mentioned, Amy, where you just are like, okay, I can't. There's so many things you want to do and
Mhm.
learn and whatever, but if you can't incorporate them or can't, then sometimes it can just make you feel worse than when you started because you're like,
Well, and the
Yeah.
retention too, like, that's
right?
one of my biggest problems. It's my age, I think, is, like, retaining the information. It's like did they talk about that in the menopause portion? No.
Yeah, I mean, that is
Why
really
we
a
can't remember
good
shit?
course, really good, and really dives into all of it, from there's so much new information now around the hormone piece and how to, and all of it. It's just overwhelming, the food and exercise and ways to manage all the hormonal stuff. Yeah, I'm like, good lord, if I had just, there's just so much now, so much more now. But you're right, Lara. And I find this too, even with, and Amy and I have talked about this, but there's so much on the fitness side. Like, there's so much information out there, and I feel like I'm one of those folks who gets trapped into well, if I attend the course, then that'll take care of the problem. But that is not true. You have to do the work that you learn in the course
Mm.
in order to have the result. And I think, well, certainly myself, I can speak for myself. I get kind of trapped in that. Like if I could just find the right course, that would solve whatever problem it is I'm trying to solve. But that is not, you've got to do the stuff that's in the course.
True. That's a big part of most of the most trainings and courses,
Right.
and yeah,
No lack of
there's the homework
information.
element.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think that's deceiving too sometimes when you're looking at a course or you want to take an online training. We have to remember it's not just the, 3 hours a week that you need to be
Yep.
present for the
Mm.
whatever it is. It's the it's putting into practice. Like there's usually experiential parts
Mm,
of whatever it is you're learning
yeah.
that you have to apply in your own life. And then there's the studying and yeah, I feel like my brain doesn't always retain as much anymore. I have to be
Mm,
really diligent about taking notes.
Mm.
And
yep.
then I have to be able to read my writing after I take the notes, which is a huge issue for me these days.
Uh,
So I went to the Salt Therapy Association conference last year, and it was like a bunch of mini courses, like, it was a big conference, so it was like all these different speakers and all these different topics, and it was really wonderful but super overwhelming. And when I swore to myself, because you don't have time there to go over everything, because
right.
you're going from dawn till dinner time and after. And then I get home and I was like, okay, my plan is like, I'm going to condense all my notes into like bullet points. And then I'm going to put the ones that I'm going to actually put into an actionable plan over here. And I'm going to do all this. I get home and like, I'm overwhelmed because I have to do all the stuff with the business. And then I finally go back to the notes and I'm like, what
What
the
does
hell does
this
this
even
say?
mean?
Who wrote this?
Yeah.
Right? Like, what? And oh
What
my
is
gosh,
this
so I'm
word?
so glad you said, because here I am a huge note taker. Like I have
Too.
notebooks and notebooks and notebooks with notes. I what do you do with that, right? Like do I ever go back and look at them? So rarely. Like
I
I
tried,
had
but I couldn't even read my own writing,
right?
half of
Like,
it.
what in the world? So, definitely there's something about note taking in and of itself that helps put that in your brain. So, I'll probably always
Mhm.
be a note taker, but, now they have so many cool apps, so that you can, which I really wanna try one of them, but I'll have to take a course. So, but where you can, it helps you organize your notes because that's part of my problem. I got all these notebooks and all these courses and like boxes and boxes of notebooks
Yes.
with cool stuff in it. Every once in a while, I'll pull one out and be like, "Oh, that was so good! I can't, but why did I like do that?" So I think there's that too. Like, I don't know how. I guess everybody learns a little differently, and then
Yeah.
and and there is a point, and maybe this is an aging thing, I don't know, where I'm a little more conscious of, um, learning like, early on, like, I wanted to learn things to use them to, like, quote, unquote, "make my life better," right? So there had sort of go kinda like the monetizing thing, like, I'm gonna learn it, I'm gonna take the course, and then that's gonna help me be healthier or lose weight or whatever, sell more or be a better I don't know, whatever the heck I'm after. And, 'cause you take the course because you want a thing, right? And, now I definitely ask myself, I'm like, am I really gonna do this? Like, do I really care? If like, seriously. So do I really need that? Like, what am I gonna use that for? So, and then, but I am more likely to take something just because I find it interesting. Um, like I love tarot, right? Tarot cards fascinate me. I have a deck that I've had for a really long time that a friend gave me years ago. And and I'll play around. Like I could see myself taking a course in that just because, and I have taken some, just because I think it's cool. And but definitely there's something now that's different when I look at I'm like, oh yeah, do I really need another sales course? Yeah, no, I don't. I don't
Yeah,
need
I
another set.
agree. I
I
Yeah.
don't care.
I
You
will
know?
do stuff that I think I need to do for business purposes,
Yeah.
but I have enjoyed more lately, like finding courses or workshops that I can learn something for. It's like what I would consider more personal growth or interest,
Mhm.
Yeah, kind of
curiosity.
fun. Like you
Yeah,
want
like
to
the
just
tarot.
know.
Like I love the idea of the tarot card
Mm,
class. Like
yeah.
we actually had we hosted a couple in the Salt Cave with a local person who came in and
Mm.
did a little workshop with tarot, and I didn't retain a lot from that, but it was really interesting and
Right?
entertaining.
Like you just
And
want
actually,
to learn it. Like you just
yes,
want to hear
just to
about it. And
kind of
then
have
it
a
doesn't
little
have to stay in there. Like it's not
right. In
something
that
you have
case, it
to
was
like
for fun.
retain. Yeah.
I agree. And then I actually so I totally forgot about this one too, Amy.
Look at that.
See, I should have put it in the
Spreadsheet.
spreadsheet, Amy. But
Telling
like
ya.
Michelle, when you said tarot, like I'm super interested in a lot of that metaphysical stuff
Mhm.
too. And I took a class. When this is the aside is that the person who taught the class is now my partner, but we had met before the
Teacher's
class.
pet.
But yeah, that was after that. We weren't dating at the time, but he actually teaches what's called intuitive development. So it's basically working with your own natural abilities for intuition. And he does this. It was like I want to say it was a 5-week course, and it was 3 hours on a Saturday afternoon for 5 weeks. So it was pretty intense. And we learned about energy centers, chakras. We learned about different ways to
Fun.
tap into our own intuition. We learned about the ways other people's energies can affect us and ours can affect them. I mean, it was all for personal growth reasons only. There's no certification or anything like that.
Yeah.
I will say that because it was so experiential, I mean, yes, I took a shit ton of notes to use
Right?
Michelle's own phrasing, but the notes were like just like icing because they probably helped me retain some stuff, but it was the experiential stuff. We did a lot of practice with each other, we paired up with the whole group. And when you can like really kind of like be a part of it, that's really what makes it sink in.
And
So any course.
I think maybe so while you were saying that, it popped into my head that it, I I'm taking courses for different like it's not so much about the learning, it's about the experience of the teaching. Like it's different. Like from going to school where you go to school, you sit and somebody teaches you to learn and you're there to learn. I feel like now I'm not really there to learn so much as I am to experience being taught or experience the interaction of a teacher or a mentor or
Mhm.
somebody who
Mm.
knows something that I don't know and they're sharing that wisdom with me. So it's a
Yeah.
different vibe for me now than and I was always a good student and I loved school and I loved that model too, but I'm not it's oh wow, I hadn't thought about it in this way. Thanks. Yeah, because this is truly what's happening is I'm much more into the experience of the transfer of knowledge as opposed to I'm going to sit here and you're going to teach me something and then I'm going to go
Yeah.
do it. So it's just a
Well,
different vibe. Yeah.
so it's like lecture versus practicum.
Yeah.
When you're
Yeah.
in college and you sit in these giant lecture halls and you just sit there and take notes and there's no real interaction
No.
and there's no way to put it into practice.
Yep.
But as you age, you like you said, I love the way you put that. You want the experience of it.
Yeah.
And you don't want someone to sit there and lecture. You want someone to bring you in and interact with and
Yeah.
either learn by asking questions or learn by putting something into practice that they've taught you and having them guide you in a way. I mean, that kind of says that's like the perfect course in my opinion.
Right? Yes. Yeah. So thanks, Lara. I haven't really found a way to put words to that. And I've just been really like, what am I doing? So
You
that's
just
what I'm
did.
doing.
You put perfect
Yeah.
words to it.
Thanks. Thanks, Lara.
Well, this is why we do this podcast, so we can
Thank you. It's very
figure things
helpful.
Yeah.
out.
Yeah.
Figure out. Yeah.
feel so much better. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love
This
that.
could be like a total like soapbox tangents, whatever. But I think this is like one of my things about school. Like for me, like college was different because it was like I mean, my degree's in equine science, and it was like what I wanted to go for. But and I was always a good student. Like I was like
Because you
did
have
the honor roll.
spreadsheets. Yeah,
Yeah. No,
you
hell no, we didn't have spreadsheets back
should
then.
have, but your mind works that way. So I can see where you're a good student because that's
You
the
had
way
graph paper.
you get
Yeah,
taught, right?
yeah.
Humans
But
got
like
that right. Yeah.
school was and parents are gonna if there's any kids listening to this are gonna hate me, but like school is stupid. Like when I think of like high school, 90% of the stuff that I learned in school, like it serves me no purpose now. Like
Yeah. So sorry, math.
zero.
Sorry,
Yeah.
math. But
No math. So
no.
math and science. So math and
Science,
science.
yes. Science,
Yeah.
yes.
And like health and stuff. But
Math,
freaking
no.
like literature and history, and I know some people love history. Like
Those were
yeah.
my favorite. Like you
Oh,
could have kept math and science. I would have done social studies, history, and English all day long.
I
oh,
loved English. I didn't care for history, but I think it's because I didn't have very interesting teachers. Or
Oh, I
no
loved
yeah, I
offense
history.
if
think that
any
was
of them
part
are
of my
listening, but
problem.
yeah,
too.
I think history can be very boring if you don't have good presentation.
Yeah.
Writing
And like
classes in English I loved because I always had good teachers and it was interactive. It wasn't just us learning.
oh
It was like
Yeah.
we got to play and
Amy,
write
were you
and
just doing
no.
nouns and commas and semicolons?
Yeah, it was
Yeah, that's no fun.
terrible. Like I will say we did have like a speech and comp class,
Hmm.
which I liked the speech part of it, but I was like, I don't want to write. Like, who cares where the comma is? You know what I'm trying to say.
Well,
Like,
now
yeah,
it's all
right.
different, right? It's
well,
not,
yeah, now
yeah, it's
now
like,
Google just fixes it. But like, and I could definitely do without like calculus and trig and all. Like, I
yeah.
couldn't do that to save my life today because I don't need to. But yeah, I'm like, there's so much freaking time in school on like just stupid
Well,
shit like that I
so
like
you're
And
wasted.
you don't learn how to be a responsible adult in most
no,
cases.
you do not.
No.
And that
Well,
should
So
be
that's
something they start teaching you when you're in school. I will say science is also like I think it could make or break you depending on the teacher.
yeah.
Shout out to my
I
sister. My sister's a science teacher, but she is like the best kind of science teacher and she does something different now. She's like a teacher online, but when she had classrooms, she just was again experiential and that's
yeah.
like for a lot of people that's a better way to learn.
it is.
But
Yeah.
yeah, I just like you're right. Like most no offense to teachers because I know it's a really, really hard job and
It
I don't
is a
want to be
hard
down on
job.
teachers. I think it's more because it's a difficult job and it's because they have to teach certain stuff by the
Yeah.
state laws. But a good teacher can make or break a student's interest in a certain subject.
Well, I mean, do you still remember? So this boy,
I know. I was like, "Oh boy, maybe I shouldn't go off on this
but
tangent
this
now.
is a
Like
good
we're
one.
already
Do you
45
have
minutes
a
in."
teacher you remember, Lara
Oh, absolutely.
and
Oh,
Amy? Yeah,
And
who's your
Amy?
teacher,
yeah.
Amy? Who's the
Yeah.
teacher
So
you remember?
my science teacher was Mr. Lack. And I remember like so as an adult, so we are really going off to the side now. But like so as an adult, a friend of mine actually came back to our high school as the guidance counselor. And so
Mm.
she actually had me come back and speak at the career day a couple of times because of course my job is,
Yeah.
not normal. And so afterwards, I don't know if I just whatever, they're not gonna get fired. But like after the career day, like it was always on a Friday. And so after the career day, we would go out to the bar and hang out and like have a couple of drinks. Of course, I'm an adult by the, I'm like
Yeah.
in my mid 30s by this point in time.
And you weren't bringing
And
kids with you, right?
no. And so he would come along sometimes and I told him, I was like, I have to tell you that like as an adult in my real career, like you had the biggest impact on my career. That and
Aw.
I would say health and stuff. And he'd be like, "You're like, basically like you're full of shit." Like I was like, "No, for real." So I don't know that he ever believed me, and I don't know if he's still teaching or not. But Mr. Lack, not that you're ever going to listen to my podcast, but
But just
If you
FYI.
do, yeah. Mr. Lack was definitely my yeah, he was my science teacher. And like he really cared and made it interesting. Yeah. So yeah. That was definitely my but yeah, my history teacher, I mean, he was a nice guy, but it was like a this is gonna I'm just like saying stuff tonight. But like he's like a walking corpse. He was just bored.
Not very inspiring.
Oh, I was like, "Oh, you're nice. You're a really nice man, so I'm gonna be nice to you." But oof.
I know. I
Anyway,
the only D I ever got in
you got a D?
any schooling, my entire school career, including college, I never got one D except for once in high school, and it was history.
Oh,
That's how bad it was. And I mean, I had A's and B's throughout, like always. Mostly A's even, because my dad would be like, yeah, well, how come you have 4 A's? How come you don't have 5 A's? So.
Yeah, nobody ever focuses on the 4
yeah.
A's, right? They're
Right.
like,
Not
what
like
happened
me paying
here?
my kids, like, here's $1 for every A. No, just kidding. We might have a little, but. So, but I
Whatever
think
works.
I had a Mr. Clark in high school who was an English teacher, and we did a lot of writing, and he was just super creative. Like, he let us write creatively. And
Mm.
I think that's like, he taught us about writing for conversation versus like technical writing, and he just made it fun. I don't know what
Yeah.
it was, but I think because we had open conversations in class, I remember that, and we got to write in a playful, fun way. And
Yeah.
that's probably one reason I enjoyed writing and really always have. And I can
Yeah.
spell. I can good speller too.
Charlie Brown. Oh, I'm not a good speller either.
Some people
it's
aren't.
like praise Jesus for spell check. Like sometimes I'll be writing
Right?
stuff.
Like that
If
is
you guys
really
ever get
good
a text
stuff.
from me that's like just a random word, you'll know that. So sometimes if I'm trying to write something down,
You'll type it in, so see if
I'll
Siri
type
knows.
it into a text to see how to spell it, and then I'll write it down. It's really terrible. I'm not a great
So
speller.
I think spelling sometimes is innate. Like, you could be a good speller or
Yeah.
you're not. I don't know if you can teach that.
Or like if I'm like writing something and like I'm like, oh crap, I don't know how to spell that word. I'm like, well, let's swap that word out. What word do I know that sounds like that? Or like what's a synonym for that word?
Another wonderful thing that Google can
I know.
provide.
Yeah.
That
So
is so funny.
wow, yeah, that went
That was a
really
tangent.
aside.
That
Yeah.
was
So
good,
maybe our
but
next training should
definitely
be
it does.
writing and
But it does tie in, right? Because we're talking about training and
yeah, it is
courses
about
and
Yeah.
all of that. And I
learning.
think that's,
And like
you know,
I think it all goes back to the not only in the training and courses but in school, like who facilitates it and who quote unquote teaches it can really
Yeah.
make a huge difference, and how it's taught, like,
yeah. Well, Amy, you and I both follow Seth Godin, right?
oh,
So
did you well yeah, we'll have to do another a
yeah,
little aside
and
afterwards
he
on his
has a
new thing.
really, yeah, we should do a whole, yeah. So he
He's
has a
fascinating.
really interesting take on, and I don't know if it's his original thought or if he got it from somebody else, but if you look at our public school system, it was really set up to create workers for factories. So
Interesting.
imagination and creativity and all of that were not encouraged, right?
Yeah.
Basically, they needed to turn people out that could follow directions. And if you think about how our school system, it's getting better, it certainly is better, but it was designed really to create factory workers. Back
That
in
is super
whenever, yeah,
interesting, and you're right.
yeah,
That could be a whole another topic, but like the idea that, you're writing, reading, arithmetic, like you need to
yeah,
do those things for basic jobs.
yeah.
And I'm not saying
And
that all
just
factory workers
enough,
are
right?
basic,
And
but
just enough to be useful. They don't want you to be a pointy stick, right? You needed
yeah,
to
right.
fit in, listen to and it was a way to teach people to listen to the authority, right? Because you've got the
Yes,
teacher.
I
And
remember all those
yep,
tests where it would
yep,
say like part of your score is following directions.
yep,
Part of your score was based
yep,
on following directions.
yep.
So that's where
You
that came
Yeah,
from.
you go and you sit
Yeah.
in your assigned seat and you show up at a certain time. Like there's
Wow.
right. So
So
when I
look at
read
how
that,
things
I
have
was like,
changed. Things have
right?
changed tremendously. Well, and
Yeah,
also like I know in some districts the money's tight and they are trying to
yeah,
pull things like art and music
yeah,
and hopefully most communities are fighting that.
yeah.
We had a
Ugh.
situation here
And
locally where
recess,
one school
gym.
was getting rid of something and everybody protested and they're like, yeah, no, you can't take that away. So,
Yeah.
but like the creative things that you're doing, that's what spurs you to want to learn later in life.
Well, and especially now because our world is not that world any longer. So
Mhm.
you don't want people to like conform. We need, people who are thinking out, quote unquote, outside the box, people who,
Yeah,
you
you need
know,
independence and
yeah,
thought and yeah.
yeah.
And that's how we're going to grow and we're going
Because
to keep the
now
society
we
going.
have computers to do all that other crazy stuff that you had to
Yeah.
learn to do, anyway. Yeah. So
Yeah.
we
I get
could
it.
do a whole other, yeah.
I know. That's sorry. I didn't mean to take us off on
No,
the
that
whole
was
tangent there,
good.
but
That
It
was
was good.
good.
It
it's
was
just like
interesting.
when we were talking about like, the stuff that we want to do and take and stuff. Like I feel like I'm much more inclined to want to learn stuff now because I get to pick and choose what I want to
Right?
learn. Whereas before
Yeah,
I'm
and
like,
that
"Ugh."
is a beautiful thing. Like in today, in this modern situation that everybody finds themselves in, you can go find almost anything that you're interested in and take some kind of course or training or workshop. And a
Yep.
lot of times you don't even have to pay for it. So yeah,
Yeah.
that
And not
part
even
is
that, but
very
like
cool.
freaking YouTube, man. I can learn to
Oh, I
do
know.
all
Mm.
kinds of stuff on YouTube.
That is so true. Yeah.
Mhm.
That's another whole like
Oh
untapped
yeah.
universe of like how to do pretty much anything.
Mhm.
Mm.
I
Mm.
just had to YouTube how to change the battery in my key fob the other day on my truck.
See, stuff like that.
Yeah. Minute
I know how to
video.
change the battery in any key fob. There's a trick. You drive to the nearest Batteries Plus store and take it in
And
there
they'll
and
do
they
it.
do it for you.
Oh,
You don't even
yeah.
have to know what kind of battery it is. You just go in there and be like, "Here you go." And they're like, "Pop." And they go to the drawer and they get the right one and they stick it back in there and it's like $5.
It's magic.
We don't have a battery. I don't have a battery plus store. I've never heard of that.
I know there's different names for them, but they're just
Oh.
like little battery stores. And like I wait until I have like a collection of items that need new batteries, and I go in there and I'm like, here's a remote, here's a key fob, here's this thing that goes on my dog collar. Like, yeah.
You change the batteries in your remote?
Well, it was this fancy remote that had like one of those round batteries, and you know how many round batteries are in the drawer that you have no idea what they fit into.
And there you have it, folks. Yep.
And the writing is very small.
Yeah. Oh, I
Huh.
totally, yeah, that is true. The small
Mhm.
writing, it will break you.
But if you take a picture, because
Oh,
I
you're
have to
right.
do this.
Make it
If you
big.
take a picture of it and then you blow it up, because that's what
That
I
is
did
true.
the other
And
day
then you
when I
can
went
go
to
to
get
the
batteries.
store and hopefully they have it and all that. But that again is a pain in the arse.
No, it took me like 3 seconds.
Very interesting. Hmm. Hmm.
Then,
Yeah, you learn something
Well,
new every day.
yeah,
Well, that
funny.
was quite the talk. We
That was
went
fun.
on for a while, so
Yeah, yeah.
if anybody wants to share, email us and let us know what courses you've loved or recommend. We'd love to find. We're always looking,
We're
so
always
Yeah.
looking to learn new
share
things.
with
Let us know.
us.
Something that you
Yeah.
did that you took just kind of for fun. I would love to know what people are.
Yeah. Or the most like unusual.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what we're after.
What's our
Yeah.
email address?
3monkeyswellness@gmail.com. THREE.
3monkeyswellness@gmail.com.
Mail.com. Yep.
Yeah. It's in my spreadsheet too.
Well, I guess we need to wrap it up.
Only with all our
Okay.
Of
passwords.
course it is.
Let's do
We
it.
need to wrap it up quick, so we're gonna do it. We're
Okay.
just gonna do it off the cuff.
Okay.
We're gonna go because it's true who you
Yeah.
hang with and all
Yeah.
that and how
Yeah.
it matters. So, ready?
Yeah.
Yeah.
1, 2, 3. Monkey,
Monkey
chatter, monkey chatter.
Who
Who
you
you hang
hang
with
with
matters.
matters.
Why do we always go so slow?
I don't know. I was trying to
know.
speed it up. I really was.
And
Right.
why do we always have to whisper? I do the same thing. Ready? 1,
Monkey,
2, 3.
three.
Monkey.
All right, wrap it up.
Cheers, everybody.
Okay.
Peace out.
See ya.
Peace out.